The men's gold medal game is set. It's Canada and the United States. Looking forward to a thrilling game. We'll talk about how we got there next on today's Locked On NHL Olympic Squad Show.
You are talking puck with the NHL Squad Show. From the Oilers to the Stars, Golden Knights, and the Panthers, the Rangers, Avalanche, and yes, even the Maple Leafs. The Locked On Podcast Network brings together all its local experts to provide the scoops, breakdowns, and comprehensive looks at all the NHL, with plenty of trash talk to go with it. Don't miss the hard hits and glove-dropping hot takes on the Locked On NHL Squad Show. It's time to drop the puck.
Welcome, everybody, to the Friday edition of the Locked On NHL Olympic Squad Show. Thank you for making the Squad Show your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss any of the episodes here on the Locked On NHL Network. And thank you for helping to make Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. I am Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. I'm here today with Kyle Carr from Locked On Anaheim Ducks and David Morisuti of Locked On Leafs as we talk Olympic hockey. And, the gold medal game is set. And to the surprise of not a lot of people, it's a mirror image of the women's game. The men will be Canada against the United States. But Canada kind of had to sweat to get there. David, a great comeback by Canada, but were you surprised that the game was this close?
Not surprised that the game was close. Surprised that Canada found themselves down 2-0. That, to me, Canada has, for most of the tournament, they hadn't faced, the adversity of having to come back in a game, right? They were always up 2, 3, 4, and eventually 5-0 in most cases. Against Czechia, that was the first time that they had ever gone down in a game. And now I guess they're just worked for us against Czechia, so let's do it again against Finland. Let's not do that in the gold medal game, gentlemen. But this is the thing. It was moments, right? Take a penalty, bang, in the back of the net. I'm just oh boy, this is not gonna go well. And then when they got the shorthanded goal scored against them, I'm just this is really, really not good. But as the game went along, Canada was just dominating from that point. They basically said, all right, we're going to stop it here. We're going to stop playing nice. And they took control of the game. It was I don't know how Finland thought sitting back on a 2-0 lead was going to go well for them, because as good as UC Saros is, Canada that's too good of a team to just sit back on a lead. And look, I think there were probably, when a team is pressing, Finland had a clear strategy of sit back and hope for a counterattack. Canada got a lot smarter on that, and eventually, the zone time catches up to you. I think that's probably the biggest takeaway is Canada's ability to just control play, control zone time. There were some sloppy moments, but they, and when they finally start hitting the net, I was probably going to be ready to order shooting lessons for the entire blue line after that game. But that to me was the big thing of this game is, Canada stuck to it. They didn't panic. They didn't try to cheat their way. They were doing the right things. And Finland, I'm sure they're probably gutted because it was right there for them. But it just goes to show in a tournament like this, you can't sit on a lead against a team like Canada.
No, not at all. And it was kind of ironic looking at X after the game and saw Teemu Selanne upset about the officiating, talking about, it's hard to beat Canada and the Canadian officials and all this stuff. But then Chris Pronger replies with, well, come on now. Anyone knows you can't be sitting on a 2-goal lead for 40 minutes of a game. And it's okay, we've got someone tweeted it's like watching your uncles fight at the dinner table. We've got these two legendary Ducks arguing over this game. But, Finland, they came out hot with those quick goals. But like David said, you just cannot sit back and give any type of grace to that Canadian roster. They have such a stacked lineup. Yeah, it was to be expected, even with Crosby out. You know, McKinnon's going to play well. McDavid, Celebrini, everyone that needed to step up in that game stepped up and got them the win. I'm a little worried that now they're like, all right, now we're going to bring this heat to the gold medal game.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing too. I'm sure Kyle's just like shouting on X, "Stop the fighting! You guys are supposed to love each other." But this is the thing. Like it brings out this passion, right? I give I don't blame Teemu Selanne for one bit. That's just a passionate reaction to the way a very disappointing ending. But again, if they didn't call that high stick. Oh man, I can only imagine what would have happened. And like to me, I thought he was going to be referencing the second Canadian goal where Marchand was knocked into Saros, and I thought maybe that's what he was referring to. But then when he was talking about that late in the game, I'm like, so we can't call penalties if they're blatant and obvious. Like to me, like I understand, like the NHL has all been about prison rules and playoffs and Stanley Cup Finals. But that would be way too obvious if you don't call a penalty on a play like that.
Mm-hmm.
David, was there a turning point in this game? Was there a moment where you said, okay, Canada is back on track?
Yeah, no, I think it was the first goal just because they needed to stop the bleeding. They needed to go into that third period with some sort of like an idea that, you know, we're finding a way to cut down on this lead. They had chances, but they had a lot of missed opportunities. And the one thing I will say that was better about this game versus the Finland game is, yes, Crosby. No, you don't have Crosby, so you're still figuring out ways to make it work without him. In this game, what worked better than the Czechia game is there was an identity on the other lines that other guys who were able to kind of step up. The Marchand, Bennett, I know Wilson was put in there. Seth Jarvis, like they found other guys to come through and play with a little bit more of an identity in this game. And like I get it, the Crosby injury sucks. It absolutely sucks. But
Tough.
he's your, I would say, top 5 player, right? Top 5 forward, whatever you want to say. Like he means a lot to this team. Don't get me wrong. But you're a team full of top players on all these other teams. Maybe not all of them are at the Sidney Crosby level, but that's fine. You don't need them all to be Sidney Crosby. I think that's what ended up happening in this game is other guys are like, okay, well, we can't do what Sidney Crosby does, but we can find ways to contribute in the ways that we know we can. And that's, I think, what happened in this game. So I'll credit Canada for finding a way. I know Crosby was close, and I'm sure a lot of guys were anxious about that. Would they have Crosby? But I also like the fact that they didn't just, you know, put their whole game plan on Crosby potentially being available for them as well.
Crosby adds leadership and experience above and beyond his talents on the ice. I mean, this is a deep team. This is a team full of really great players and leaders, but who do you think filled that vacuum for Canada?
It's everyone's favorite player, Brad Marchand.
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw it on the bench. He was pumping up the players. He had a bit his best game, and I thought he was due for a goal. I thought he was going to score in this game. That's how good I thought Brad Marchand was playing in this game. He really stepped up. He understood, okay, I don't have the C. That's McDavid's, deservingly so. But that doesn't mean Brad Marchand can't find a way. And every team his addition to the Panthers was so crucial. Like he brought that element, a different element that the Panthers clearly needed in that run. You know, it's not always about can he score, can he keep the guys level-headed through it. And when they were down 2-0, Brad Marchand did not panic. He was the one keeping guys on the bench from thinking, oh man, like the sky is falling on us. He's the one that kept the guys on that bench level-headed. And I think he was so crucial to Canada being able to just regroup and finding a way to get back into it.
Yeah, I think he really proved that, you know, you don't want to be against him, but when you have him on your team, you absolutely love having Brad Marchand. And his energy was so electric, and his just how pumped up he was when they started scoring, and when they had that long review and then they called it a good goal, and he's just stoked on the bench. Just this absolute gem of a character. And he's been here before plenty of times in big playoff moments, and he knows what it's like to take the next step. And even when you have guys out like Patrice Bergeron or Zdeno Chara, he had to be that guy out in Boston. Now he's out in Florida, not as much of a leadership role, but a guy you don't need to give a letter to that's going to step up and take care of that locker room. And I also think that, McKinnon, even if he is dealing with something or not, I think he's been stepping up as well. He's always got that dog in him. He sets a certain tone of competitiveness, and then just to see Celebrini come in and kind of just be this kid, and he's requesting the puck, and he's trying to call off McDavid and Crosby, trying to get the puck as a 19-year-old, beaver tailing and stuff. So you've got a lot of guys on the Canadian roster that are grade A players, and will drag the rest of the players through the fight.
No doubt about that. Is there a lesson that you think Canada learned, something they learned from this close call that may help them in the gold medal game?
I just think staying, not trying too hard, because like that shorthanded goal happened because guys were flying. It got way too chaotic on that power play. Kind of keep it simple. Get to your spots. Don't be flying around, because that can really throw things out of whack in a lot of ways. And they started getting better on the faceoffs in that third period. They were spending way too many times getting possession in the offensive zone, getting the whistles, but then they lose the draw right after. It means nothing to get those offensive zone opportunities if you're not keeping yourself in for extended periods in the zone. So I think, they got a lot better at the faceoffs. They found a way. I think they're going to have to find a way to get even better at that, because it's, it's a small little detail that can go a long way in a game where it's every, inch, right? 1 goal games, 1 shot, 1 chance in the offensive zone. That's all you need. And so that's kind of where I think they really found a way later on in the game to really pick themselves up and get to those opportunities.
All right, we have got more to get to on today's show. Team USA also advancing to the gold medal game. We'll talk about how they did it coming up next on the Squad Show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of the year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now not only can you pick cash, but it could also send you to the finals. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Team USA seemed to have an easier time of it. They started fast and won going away. Kyle, what was your first impression of this win by Team USA to get to the gold medal round?
My first impression was excitement. Glad that they did it. It was nice to enjoy the game. Slovakia was honestly my biggest worry. I was very nervous going into this game. Yesterday we talked about it after the women won gold, and I was like, this is the team that makes me nervous. I really didn't want to say anything. I didn't want to jinx anything because I figured it was going to be a Canada versus USA gold medal game, but I just didn't want to put that to risk with that Slovakia team because they were really great during this tournament. I think Slavkovsky really put himself on the map in this tournament, and he's had a couple Olympics before this, but this one really set him off. And I think he was doing really, really well. Got the goal scoring started for Slovakia against Team USA. So there was a good game there, but the team just came together, and all the guys that needed to show up were showing up. And we talked about Brad Marchand on the Canadian team. Well, you've got Matthew Tkachuk on the USA team with his brother Brady, and then with Eichel, I feel like they've been just kind of setting the tone for this team. And that power play unit that the USA team has been really strong with Tage Thompson. He did leave the game early, but it looks like it was more of a precautionary thing there. But I just love this team. I think the energy, the speed, it's all coming together right now. And, am I a little worried that they, quote unquote, poked the bear? Now you got Canada that had to fight for it, and the US maybe not so. But I really like what I'm seeing out of this American team from the back end on up. And, Quinn Hughes was looking fantastic in this game. And basically him and his brother, the Hughes brothers, were just on fire for this. So a lot of storylines kind of came out of this game. A lot of the guys, I think, answered a lot of questions that were still kind of lingering if they're up here and worthy of this play. I know a lot of rumors have been going around about Jack Hughes, and he got 2 today, and he was great throughout the entire tournament as well. So I think this USA team's really showing what they're capable of, and they're ready to roll for Sunday.
Yeah, I just look at like the US. We talked about this the other day where it felt like it was just a moment of we were waiting for them to have this big offensive explosion. We know that the talent was there for them to do it. So like if you're looking at how they play, I'm sure they feel a lot better knowing that the goal scoring is starting to show, and that's one less thing they have to be kind of concerned about. And look, Connor Hellebuyck, another big. It wasn't a hard game really for him. He didn't see a lot of shots, but for goalies, that's tougher, right? When you're not seeing a lot of rubber, you're kind of every little thing can get, one bad goal could be the thing that breaks you in a lot of ways. And he didn't allow, he had the one goal with Slavkovsky, a little bit of a miss play behind the net. But other than that, like I know that everyone's talks about, okay, let's wait for him to have the big game, right? That's how he does in the big moment. But you have to feel good when your goaltending is doing well, and now you got your star forwards, and you got contributions from up and down the lineup, right? It's not just one line that's kind of pulling the weight of offense for Team USA. So got to give them credit that they've been able to find ways for more guys to contribute offensively.
I'm gonna ask you guys about a player, and shout out to our producer Jay Foster for this one. How about Zach Werenski? 3 assists in this game. I mean, I just think, he may not always be flashy, but boy, does he get the job done.
Oh man, like Werenski, I always think back to when it was the draft. The Leafs had the opportunity to draft Marner, but there was talks that maybe Werenski was on the Leafs' radar. And look, Mitch Marner's great player. He did good things for the Leafs. But if the Leafs had a defenseman like Zach Werenski, we've seen it the last few, we've seen it for a majority of his career, especially the last few years, and in this tournament, you see the value of having a defenseman like him. And so, the U.S. blue line, no one has. We knew they were going to be good. We knew that they were going to be a big strength to this American lineup. But having a defense like Werenski, right, and you've got Quinn Hughes, and you just go up and down that blue line, and you don't need Werenski to, you don't need Werenski to do it all. And yes, producer, we will continue to say nice things about Zach Werenski. It's hard not to. And we're kind of envious that he is stuck in Columbus right now. Oh, sorry. That's a little bit. That's a nice thing about Werenski, but not even so nice thing about Columbus, the Blue Jackets. But I will say that, the U.S. have a spoil of riches on that blue line when you can say, all right, Werenski, go out there. Okay, Sanderson. All right, Quinn. It's just goes. It's a lot easier for that blue line to be so cohesive when you have that level of depth.
Yeah, and it's tough because for me, being the Ducks host and, obviously talking to a lot of Ducks fans, we're like, a lot of people are asking, where's Jackson Lacombe? But I look at this decor for USA and it's like, I'm not offended that he is not on this lineup. There are so many good players on this defensive core. Now with the whole Tage Thompson thing, I don't know, maybe something opens up. He can play like a little dual role or something. But that everything else aside, Zach Werenski's been so good on the blue side, defensive side of the puck and the offensive side. And there was a moment during that game, it didn't result in a goal, but he was stick handling the puck and he deking out some dude, and the guy kind of pushed him. He lost his footing, and while he's still following, he like reaches out and bats the puck, pushes it wide to the far boards, and I think it was like Jack Hughes or someone was right there in the space and kept the puck in the zone. It's like the little things like that, just the determination to make things happen, and the location of where he's at and where their positioning is. Everything that they've been doing has been outstanding to watch, and generated, I think, most of those goals today came from the back end. It wasn't really the one and dones or anything like that. It was a lot of plays set up by the defense, getting the cycle going, and then it resulted in something in the back of the net.
No question. Werenski and that USA blue line really important to the success of the team. All right, we are going to preview the gold medal game between the United States and Canada, and we'll talk a little bit about who gets the bronze. All that coming up on the Squad Show. All right, I'm going to ask you guys this question in maybe a slightly different way, and I'm going to start with you, Kyle. If you're Team USA, what concerns you most about facing Canada in this gold medal game?
I think what concerns me most is Crosby rallying and ending up back in the lineup, and he just takes over the team and sets the tone and basically just turns this up on side of its head. We've seen it in 2010, what he can do to this team. I think he is such a icon and staple of that team. If he comes out healthy, it's kind of like, Zdeno Chara with the wired shut jaw in 2019 for the Bruins. Granted, they didn't win, but just like what that brings to the team and how motivated people get for that. That's my biggest worry, is that he's going to come out there and they're going to battle for him.
And David, if you're Team Canada, what concerns you most about facing Team USA?
It's probably the blue line and goaltending, because Canada, now that they've played two stronger teams, this is going to be the toughest combination of defense and goaltending that they'll play, like in terms of the star talent. And like Canada has put up chances, but they've struggled to get into scoring areas. And when they have, whatever team is defending is right on top of them. And I mean, Canada, when they played the US in Four Nations, that was a very close game, right? And Canada really struggled at times to get into those scoring areas. So they're going to have to find a way to break through and get to, find ways for other guys to contribute. And so, yeah, like Canada has the star talent, but USA can go toe-to-toe with them. I think the way that they're set up, USA probably feels good about, their blue line. You can throw any defense pairing out there, and you feel pretty good about how they match up.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be one heck of a game. Before we get to predictions, Finland and Slovakia battle for the bronze. Who's the favorite and why?
Oof.
I'm going to stick with Finland. I just think, I'm sure they're disappointed with how the game went and not being able to get to the gold medal game. But that's still a team that's got some good talent. And I think Slovakia has been a good story, but I think it goes to show that when you put them up against a team that has the wealth of talent, I just think it's going to be a tough road for Slovakia, especially to recover from this type of game where they're probably very disappointed, very down on themselves. And you get a chance to still go for medal. I just think that you look at the way that Finland has really pushed themselves in this tournament. they've gotten over the first loss that they had really well, and the only thing I could say is there's some players are going to have to they have to play a lot more disciplined. They were very undisciplined against Canada, and I think if you're Slovakia, that's probably the one thing you're hoping is that Finland continues to play undisciplined. But I just think Finland it's a good roster. That's a tight checking team, good blue line. They're not going to make it easy on Slovakia.
Is it possible, however, that emotionally Finland can't recover from the way they lost in the semis?
I think they want that medal still. I think that it's going to hunger them, I think. And I with Slovakia's performance against the US, I think that, it seems like the wheels kind of ran off with the Slovakian team. They weren't playing as physical as they had been. They hadn't really enforced their game against the US team, which, I mean, with the speed and the structure that US has, it's hard to do that. But looking at how things went and how Finland was able to put up a good fight against Canada until they sat back and tried to milk that 2-0 lead, I think Finland definitely has what it takes to come away with the bronze medal over the Slovakian team. Nothing against that team. It's just, I think the length of the tournament and the talent, it's all finally kind of bubbling up, and now you're seeing the rosters with a little bit more NHL talent are kind of taking over the tournament.
All right, so gold medal game, USA, Canada. Who wins and why? Kyle, let's start with you.
Well, we mentioned, I talked about Crosby coming back, and then David mentioned the goaltending and defensive core for the U.S. Jordan Binnington's no slouch for the Canadians either, and we know how it is when he shows up on these big moments and what he has did to this team in the Four Nations and Hellebuck. Everyone's always asking when's he going to show up, like you said, Gil. I think this is going to be one of those games that I think is going to upset some people, and there's going to be one of those asterisk comments or doesn't count comments. And I think it's going to go to OT just like the women's game, and the U.S. is going to come away with a gritty, grimy goal that, it's going to be a hard-fought battle.
David?
I gotta stick with Canada. If Crosby comes back, I think he might not be at 100%. He might not play what we expect from Crosby at his best, but I think just the guys are gonna rally around. The players are gonna rally around him, and yeah, the U.S. has a very tough blue line, but I think Canada found other ways for guys to contribute in this game, and you try telling Connor McDavid that he is losing a gold medal game. I don't think he's going to. I don't think he's going to leave everything on the ice. Nathan MacKinnon has been thrown up on the bench in this tournament and keeping himself in it. And like Macklin Celebrini too, he should have had a few goals in this game. Like I just think the Canada Stars have just been so good that yes, it's going to be a very tough battle against the U.S. But we have seen Connor Hellebuck struggle in these games. And so, and the Canadians got a lot of, yes, the U.S. have got some guys that have won some cups, but the Canadians also have guys who know how to win in these sort of games. And they proved it last year, Four Nations. I'm expecting a similar type of game. It's going to be close. I think it's going to come down to the wire because you've seen these two teams go up against each other so many international tournaments. It's always the way it happens.
If it goes to a shootout, exciting, gimmick, or both?
I hate the shootout. I honestly cannot stand it. Cannot. Just do 4 on, like, I like the attrition theory where you do like 5-on-5, 4-on-4, 3-on-3 every OT as you keep going, and finally it's like, all right.
Just like Connor,
shootouts just ugh.
What's the rule again? I think the first 3 shooters go, and then you can have whoever else you want after that, like the first 5 shooters. Get the first 2 out of the way and just say, yeah, McDavid, MacKinnon, and then throw in a Celebrini when you want. Like, it's going to be a very short bench in that, if that shootout ever happens. And I hope Connor Hellebuck will have nightmares if that ever comes about. But I hope no goaltender has to go through that gauntlet in a shootout.
Well, I'm curious how 3-on-3 is going to look. If they do 3-on-3, like, Are you going to get maybe 2 pairs of threes? Are you going to see a rotation throughout the roster of the players out there? Like, I don't know how that's even going to look. Like, you might have Celebrini, McDavid, and
they'll do pairs, and then they'll kind of cycle through. I think like they'll have their pairs, but I think they're gonna kind of it'll be like, I guarantee if it goes to OT and it's in a 3-on-3 situation happens, like it would be McKinnon and McDavid and Makar, and you just throw those guys out first like they did against Czechia, and you hope the other team will have to count their blessings a little bit on that.
Eichel, Hughes, and Matthews maybe for the Americans.
Yeah, like I would say, like you do like an Eichel, Matthews, and you can put Quinn Hughes. I would say Quinn Hughes in that situation.
On the second.
Yeah, Werenski would be out there because Werenski's very good defenseman.
Going to be a heck of a game. Going to be a heck of a game. Got to talk up Werenski. Got to talk
Locked on Werenski. Get the pod going, Jay.
Tune into our producer.
If you never miss an episode of your favorite team's Locked On NHL podcast, then the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get your favorite team's show ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. So head to the link in the show notes or go to lockedonpodcast.com/everydayer for more information. I'm Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders. I want to thank Kyle Carr of Locked On Ducks and David Morisuti of Locked On Maple Leafs for joining me today. Have a great weekend, everyone. Enjoy the gold medal game, and we will be back on Sunday to talk about what happened and why. So make sure you join us for that. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great weekend, and thanks for watching and listening to the Locked On NHL Olympic Squad Show.